working? Is it working?
Okay, so first of all, welcome back to NIRL, Nikki in real life. NIRL, I show you clips and pictures of my real actual life. This particular vlog is gonna be, I guess, more like a story time. My first story time ever on my channel. The reason it's gonna be more like a story time is because I didn't really get as much footage as I wanted to get on this trip. I was a little distracted, as you will soon find out why. For those of you who don't know, Steve and I went to Costa Rica last month, mid-December. We tried to do a romantic vacation getaway at least once a year instead of buying each other birthday gifts or anniversary gifts or Christmas presents. We save that all up and then go on a trip at the end of the year. Usually somewhere tropical, somewhere with a beach. We like warm places. That's been our kind of tradition. This year we decided to go to Costa Rica, which has been on my bucket list since I was a kid. I wanted to see the rainforest. I wanted to see some monkeys. I wanted to go zip lining. I wanted to go to the beaches. I wanted to learn to surf. I had big plans for this trip. And that's where our story starts. So we leave LA early in the morning, go to Costa Rica at the Liberia airport when the sun is setting.
Hey,
How was your flight?
it was awesome.
Okay, good.
How was yours?
It was great.
Good.
Were we on the same flight? Wow.
We were.
Oh, that explains things. Our hotel was 90 minutes away, so by the time we got there, it was nighttime. We just got to our room in Costa Rica, and it's like a little apartment. We were kind of tired from traveling, so we just decided to grab some dinner. Costa Rica!
Can you quiet down? I'm trying to watch old wrestling videos.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. This is our first spot that we are eating. We can hear the waves. We've got a candlelit dinner going on, okay, because we're super romantic. This is a romantic vacation.
There better be ways, they better not be piping audio. I'm gonna find out. They better not be piping audio.
Piping audio? What is
Well,
that
yeah, you
mean?
can't see the waves. So they could be piping audio in here. We wouldn't
True. The next day was a dream. Good morning. It's day one of Costa Rica. Our room is right here. And check it out. The ocean's right here. What? I think this is the closest to the ocean I've ever stayed. I thought we were pretty close in Tulum, but we still had to walk like 20 steps at least. This is like 5 steps. Dang, dude. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning right now, and we're gonna explore.
Hola, buenos dias.
Hola! Morning, buenos dias.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's why we have to go get breakfast.
Steve had Fruit Loops.
Yeah, I had Fruit Loops and a slice.
Hold up. Let's talk about breakfast anymore. Look at this view. Oh my god. This
Okay,
is
but
crazy.
can I talk about breakfast now?
No, we're gonna go get new breakfast. Look at how pretty. The water is so warm. Oh my gosh, look, it's all like secluded. Happy romantic vacation.
That's awesome.
This is so cool. Check out our breakfast spot. Oh, you can't really check it out, but there's the ocean back there. Oh, there it is. Check out our breakfast spot. Oh, no, you can't see me. Can't have both worlds. Day one, looking pretty good. We're in Tamarindo, but we're only here for a night because originally our trip was for Santa Teresa, which is 4 hours away from the airport. So I just wanted a place to crash before we go to the main part of our trip. But this is so cute.
Yeah, it's cute.
I kind of wish we were here for another day. They had horseback riding down there and kayaking and surf lessons.
They got that airwear.
Ooh. They got what?
They got that airwear.
The airwear.
Airwear.
Oh, everywhere. Okay. Excuse me, I have to translate my husband's language. Arr.
We gonna go do the thing?
Yeah, we're gonna go get you some flip-flops. Steve
hell
only
yeah.
has tennis shoes.
Hell yeah.
And then he buys cheap-ass like Rite Aid flip-flops and then gets mad at that he gets blisters.
No.
And then he throws his flip-flops away.
I buy Walmart flip-flops.
Oh, excuse me. I'm
$2
sorry.
Walmart flip-flops. Can't beat that deal.
Yeah,
Tell you
$2
what.
ones.
Can't beat
He
the
gets
deal.
the deals. According to all the blogs that I had read before going to Costa Rica, I make sure to do a lot of research before I go somewhere, so we pick the very best place to stay, and that way we don't spend a lot of time traveling all over the place or spend a lot of money trying to figure out where we want to go. According to all the blogs that I had read, Tamarindo was this overpriced, overcrowded, touristy area. Didn't seem that cool. They didn't make the beaches sound that cool. So I'd only booked us to stay there for 2 nights until we could get to the main part of our trip, which was to be in Santa Teresa. But I don't know, that was not our experience with Tamarindo. Tamarindo was awesome. Like, it was beautiful. It was not overcrowded. It was super peaceful. Our hotel was on the beach, and then it was about maybe a quarter mile into town that you could just walk along the beach and access through the beach. So that's how we got to breakfast, and we walked around the little town. I wish that I would have had more time to explore there. I had to work on that first day. I had to finish editing a video for a brand, so for 5 hours during the middle of the day I was just working, thinking in my head that there are so many days that I'm gonna be enjoying Costa Rica, so it didn't really matter that I was working on the first day. It was super peaceful on the side of the beach that we were at. I had no complaints. The waves were really mellow. The water was super clear and warm. There were no rocks, no seaweed, there was no coral. So you could just walk right in the ocean and it was like someone filled up a bathtub and put sand on the bottom. God, ugh. If I could just bottle that day and have that day every day, oh my God, I would have no complaints for the rest of my life. So when I say editing this vlog was hard for me, it's the parts like this.
The next place is supposed to be even more dope.
Where we're like, supposedly, it'll get better even. I wish I could just reach through the screen and grab those people and be like, don't leave, idiots. Just stay there, please just stay there. Please, 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 you have no idea, please just stay there. You idiots, you had it all.
Why you keep hiding? I think I'm doing good so far.
I think you're beautiful. All kinds of life going on. Hey, dude.
I'm trying. I just wanna be where you are.
The next day we headed out to Santa Teresa.
Good morning. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. We're leaving Tamarindo and we're headed on a 4-hour shuttle ride to Santa Teresa. You excited?
Excited to get there, yeah.
You excited about this shuttle ride?
I'm more excited for the shuttle ride than anything else.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We get to see all of Costa Rica. Pura vida. Pura vida, man.
So Santa Teresa is a small little beach town on the southern tip of the peninsula, of the Nicoya Peninsula. None of the roads are paved. You have to take a shuttle or an airplane to get in there or have like an off-roading vehicle. The shuttle I thought was gonna take 4 hours. It ended up taking 6 hours. So all of the second day we were in a shuttle. I thought that shuttle ride was never gonna end. I thought also, hey, it'll be kind of cool because we'll get to see most of Costa Rica while we're traveling through the shuttle. But honestly, it just looked like California. Like it looked like I was traveling to San Francisco. I thought it was gonna be like rainforests and like Bali. No, it was just like a countryside with a mountain. It was fine, I'm not dissing it. It was beautiful, but it just looked like California to me. And Santa Teresa itself would be amazing if you're like a surfer or you're a yogi or you're like one of those people who just wants to get off the grid for a little bit and you're like, that's your type of traveling style. It would be super, super cool for you. It's a tiny little beach town with unpaved roads. Everything is dirt. For the last hour of driving into the town, you're basically just off-roading. Everyone gets around on ATVs and motorcycles. According to the blogs, these were gonna be the most beautiful beaches in the world, but I don't know. I'm not dissing it. It's beautiful, don't get me wrong. It's beautiful, especially if you're not from a beach town. But it looked like Malibu Beach or Manhattan Beach. If you're a surfer, it's cool because there's tons of waves for you to catch, but if you just want to go in for a swim, it's rough, man. Like those waves knock you around. Like they don't play. They're not there to play. They're there to play in Tamarindo. They were not there to play in Santa Teresa. And then our hotel was kind of a walk to the beach. Like it wasn't like it was right on the beach. Like the first place, we had to walk quite a bit to get to the beach. So I don't know, it didn't feel like we traded up.
Good morning. We're in Santa Teresa. On our way to get breakfast right now.
Damn, bro.
Yesterday it was kind of a nightmare. So we didn't know that like everywhere around here only takes cash. And we were having dinner and drinks on the beach last night at a restaurant. And we were watching the sunset and everything was great. And then they brought the bill out after it got dark. And they only took cash and we didn't have cash on us. So Steve ends up leaving to go find an ATM to get cash.
I had to hike a mile.
And he had to hike a mile. And meanwhile, he doesn't have his phone on him.
Next to the road the whole time while cars and trucks pass me.
And it's like dirt roads like this.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have his phone on him, so I don't know like where he is. And I know that he doesn't see very well at night. And it's a town that we're both unfamiliar with. So he takes an hour and I am having like a panic attack on the beach. Just like not knowing if he's gonna come back or where he is. I keep trying to call him. I didn't know he didn't have a phone. It was like really scary.
On top of that, once it turns dark, the ground starts moving and it is freaky as hell. So there are hermit crabs everywhere. I wish I had gotten footage of this, but I was just so panicked at the time that I didn't even think to pull out my phone and start recording. Also bats. Bats kept swooping over me. It was really scary. I really felt like I was in a zombie movie. So then an hour goes by and I'm having a full-blown panic attack. I start sobbing uncontrollably. My mind is like, he's definitely dead. Like, it's gone. Like, he's gone. And this hotel, this particular hotel that we stayed at, doesn't stay open past 8 p.m. So they give you a key to the building. They lock up the building and you cannot get back into the building unless you have that key. Steve had that key. So I didn't know, like, if he was gone, I didn't know where I was gonna stay. All of our stuff was back at the hotel, like our cash, everything. So I'm just like going crazy. My mind is going a mile a minute. I just can't stop crying. I'm trying to not let anyone hear me crying. And then Steve walks up and he hugs me and he's like, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And I'm like, holy shit. And I was just so relieved to see him. But then he tells me that the ATM's broken.
That's what took the longest. I was at the ATM for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Trying to make it work. Trying different things, and yeah.
Yeah, it didn't work with our card, and so then we had some cash at the hotel because I'd read beforehand that a lot of places around here only take cash, but I didn't know it was like expensive and only taking cash. So I didn't bring that much cash. I brought like just enough, like I just brought like a backup amount of cash, like, you know, $150, but our bill alone was like $100 US dollars. So I had some cash back at the hotel, and I ended up having to leave my ID and my credit card with them as collateral so that we could go back to the hotel and get the cash. So that was a lot. And then we came back to the hotel and Steve was hungry again by that point, and he went out looking for some food, and all of the restaurants only take cash. So now we don't really have much cash, and it's Sunday, so the banks are closed. So I heard that there's a restaurant around here that takes cash. If they don't, I mean, that takes card, and if they don't, we can go to the supermarket and get eggs and stuff. Anyway, hope things look up. But we'll keep you posted.
We ended up finding a place that did accept credit cards to eat breakfast. That was lovely. We went back to the hotel, and then Steve tells me he needs to see a doctor. Which, if you knew Steve, this was a huge deal. I have been with Steve for almost 6 years now. Not one time ever in our relationship, not once ever, has he ever asked for a doctor. I have had to beg him to see a doctor before. Begged him because he was in so much pain. One time he had an ingrown toenail and it was fucking up his toe and he couldn't walk, and he was just in agonizing pain for 4 months and would not see a fucking doctor. I had to beg him to go see a doctor, and he finally did, and the doctor pulled out a 2-inch ingrown toenail from his fucking foot. And like, he's like, why didn't you come in sooner? That is Steve. Steve does not go see a doctor. I don't know how he does it or why he does it, but he does it. So for him to say, I need to see a doctor, was insane. So I don't hesitate. I immediately ask him like what he's feeling. He says he's in pain. I ask him what level of pain he's in. He tells me 6 out of 10, which is pretty high for Steve. Steve has a really high pain tolerance, to his detriment actually, which is why he waits so long to go see a doctor. So for him to give me any number above 5 is already like excruciating pain to anyone else in the population. So I'm like, oh shit, you stay here. I went to the front desk. I asked her if she could call a taxi to take us to the hospital. I found out later they don't have a hospital, but she's like, oh, you want to see a doctor? We're like, yes. She's like, okay, it'll take about 20 minutes. Everything in beach towns operate just a little bit slower, so we had to wait 20 minutes for the cab. By the time the cab gets there, Steve can't even really walk. I'm acting as a crutch to help him get to the cab, and then the front desk lady tells the taxi driver in Spanish to take us to a doctor. The taxi driver doesn't speak a lick of English, and I don't really speak that much Spanish. I know a couple key basic words, but I don't really know how to carry a conversation. So we're just like miming to each other the whole time. We get to the only medical center in the entire town. It's not a hospital, it's just a building. It's just like it's just a room, like it's just an office. And she knocks on the door and no one answers because it's a Sunday, so everything is closed. So everything in that center was actually closed. At this point, Steve is in so much pain that he starts projectile vomiting everywhere. Out of pain, not out of nausea or sickness, just out of excruciating pain. I ask him what his pain level is. He says 9 out of 10, which is crazy. So then this taxi driver is panicking. She's like, the doctor's not there. In Spanish, she's saying that. And then she's like, hold on. And then she runs, darts across the center around the building. I'm following her. I'm like, Steve, you stay there. We get to another building. She's banging on the door, yelling in Spanish at whoever's behind the door. The guy is yelling at her back. And so basically she's like, they're closed. And Steve is now curled up in a fetal position on the ground. He's like, I can't move. I'm done. Like, I am done. And I am internally freaking out. Externally trying to hold it together and make him feel safe. But I'm freaking out inside. This is the second time on this trip that I thought I was going to lose him. So then the lady's like, uno momento, she runs down the block across the street and to a different building and grabs a guy. She comes back with a guy who's in scrubs, so I'm assuming he's like of the medical profession. And I pay her, that lady was a freaking superhero. I pay her the rest of our cash. This was the last bit of cash we had, which was enough to leave her a decent tip on the taxi ride. But yeah, she was a freaking godsend. If she wasn't there, I don't know, we would never have found a doctor, ever. So the guy comes out, he sees that Steve can't even move. He goes back to get an ambulance, which is a little dramatic seeming because we only had to drive a block, but Steve couldn't move at all. He also comes back with a woman that can speak perfect English, and she was also amazing. Shout out to Valeria if you're watching this. Probably not watching this, but if you are, wow, angel from heaven. She was one of those people that you could tell like actually cared about other people. She started asking me like a series of questions. What happened? I told her everything that happened. It just happened out of nowhere. Steve basically told me he thought his appendix was bursting. I was praying that it wasn't that because otherwise he'd probably die. And yeah, so I was just like, yeah, he thinks it's his appendix. We didn't know what it was. He was just in a lot of pain. They load him up into the ambulance. We go for a block down the street to the emergency room, I guess. It was literally just a room, like a concrete room with a gurney and an IV. They didn't have a hospital here. That's all they had. Hooks him up to the IV, gives him some morphine to calm the pain. But she can't take away all the pain because she needs to assess like where the pain is coming from so that she could give a proper diagnosis. Steve is just shaking at this point. I'm like, what's your pain level? He says 11 out of 10, which he would never, ever, ever, ever say unless he thought he was gonna die, which he did. Later on, he told me he thought he was actually gonna die. She loads more and more morphine into him, and then finally the pain, after about 20 minutes, it goes down to an 8 out of 10, enough for her to be able to talk to him and test him for different things. She rules out appendix immediately. Thank God. It wasn't tender or sore there, so that it wasn't the appendix, so we were really thankful for that.
So we were gonna like start our trip over and like agreed to have a good vacation. And then Steve got crazy pain and thinks he might have kidney stones, so we're in an emergency room right now.
What's up, gangsters?
His pain level is at an 8. He just sucked it up to be able to talk to you. Also, everything's closed because it's Sunday, so the pharmacy's closed, our insurance company's closed, everything's really closed. So he's at a level 10 pain wise, but they put a bunch of morphine in him, so I feel totally helpless, and it makes me really sad and scared. And I'm just really hoping that it's one, that it's kidney stones, so it's an actual diagnosed problem, and then 2, that he just passes it quickly. This is just really hard to watch.
They didn't have any sort of equipment to do any tests or x-rays or like lab tests or anything like that, so he didn't take a urine test or any of that. Her best guess was that it was kidney stones, but again, she couldn't do a proper diagnosis because we couldn't test for it. So she just was like, it's probably kidney stones, and gave him a prescription for that.
I just want to say, God bless.
God bless.
That's it.
Are you having a good vacation?
Yes, it's really great.
However, the pharmacy was closed because it was a Sunday, so we basically were screwed for pain medication until almost 24 hours later. She left us with some Aleve, and told us to take it towards the end of the day. But yeah, that was the only pain medication he had. And just so you know, if you've never had kidney stones before, I'd never had it, and no one in my family has ever had it. And I had never witnessed someone having it firsthand, but it's been compared to being more painful than giving birth. And both Steve's mom and sister have done both, and they both agree that kidney stones is more painful. That's the level of pain of typical kidney stones. Also, our insurance was closed because it was a Sunday. Just don't have anything happen to you on a Sunday. You're just ultimately royally screwed. But our insurance was closed, so I ended up having to leave our passports with the doctor until we could get them our insurance information, basically so you don't bail on your bill. They actually gave us a ride back to the hotel, which was so nice. Like in the United States, an ambulance ride like that would cost $1,500. Even if we went down the block the first time, that would be $1,500. In Costa Rica, it was like just getting a ride from your friends. So that was really, really cool. I'm really thankful for that. We get back to the hotel.
Update. Steve's getting some rest in there right now. Meanwhile, we spent all of our cash getting a taxi to go to the doctor, and all of the restaurants around here only take cash. And it's Sunday, so the banks are closed. It's great. Everything's wonderful. Everything's going really smoothly here in Santa Teresa. But anyway, the grocery store does, however, take cards. So I went and got some groceries, and now I'm cooking and washing dishes. It's just like home, and which is exactly like what you want on vacation. You just want it to be all of the work that you do at home. Also, it kind of looks like Los Angeles outside. It pretty much looks exactly the same. Actually, this weather is a lot hotter. But yeah, I think we're making do. Pura vida. We're making spaghetti. Fuego.
The pain doesn't go down after 3 hours. He's back up to a 10. We have to call her. She comes into the hotel room to give him more morphine. All she can give us is a leave.
Okay, day 4 in Costa Rica. It's been pretty eventful. Good morning. It's 8 in the morning, so I can finally go get Steve his prescription because the pharmacy's open. And it's Monday.
The next morning, we didn't have enough cash to take a taxi to go to the pharmacy, so I had to rent an ATV because, like I said, that is the way that people get around in this town, by ATVs and motorcycles. So I rented an ATV for the day.
Chickity check it. Look how badass I look. I rented an ATV. Mama's gotta get her man drugs.
I'm alone on an ATV on a mission. I'm a woman on a mission traversing this little small beach town to get my man some drugs. I'm about to save the day. I go to the pharmacy, I pick up the prescriptions, I go to the bank, which is right next door, to the ATM. I withdraw some money, some cash, and then I realize that I left the ATM in the fucking machine, and it basically ate my card. So I go into the bank, and no one speaks English at the front. They have to take me to a teller who asked me for my passport. I don't have my passport because I left it with the doctors because they need my insurance information to get it back, but the insurance company is on California time, so they're not open for a couple hours, and I'm now going back on my ATV, cardless, passportless. I get back to the hotel room, and the keys are missing too. Somewhere along the line, I also lost the keys.
Well, good news is we got the drugs. Bad news is I lost my ATM card and my hotel key. So the hits just keep on coming.
And this hotel, it wasn't like a key card like normal hotels. It was an actual like key, like to a house key. And the key had our room number on it, so if anyone were to find it, they could easily just break in, and I got no man. I'm just a weak woman with an injured man in my hotel room. No line of defense if someone were to come in.
All right, so I just got off the phone with insurance. Nothing is paid for. I gotta pay completely out of pocket. This is great. It's cool. No, everything's great. And then we're gonna get our passports back, and then hopefully I can use my passport to get my ATM card back if it's still even in the bank. We don't know. This vacation is an escape room of a vacation, so it's totally up my alley. I love it. I love it. We're having so much fun. We're in Costa Rica, woo!
And that's kind of how the rest of the trip was. I was just filled with anxiety and stressed out most of the time, knowing that if anything were to happen to me, get robbed or lose my phone or hurt myself, we were screwed. So I was just super nervous the whole time. I couldn't go very far from the hotel because I didn't want to, you know, leave Steve. Cook Steve some breakfast. I drive my ATV back over to the doctor's office, tell them that we have to pay out of pocket, Ended up being about $1,000, a little over $1,000 for everything. But if I'm gonna look on the bright side of things, it's way better to not be covered over there than to not be covered over here, because all of that, the ambulance rides, her coming into the hotel room to give morphine, then with the IV, Steve being there for 3 hours, that would have cost so much money back here in the States. So I am glad that at least it was only that much. I'm also happy that I guess it happened at the beginning of our trip, because we were gonna spend that money on having a vacation, but instead it was to save my dying husband. But still, yeah, so we were out $1,000. I got my passport back, and then I had to wait in a long ass line at the only bank in town on a Monday to get my card back. I didn't even know if they had my card at this point, because they wouldn't tell me if they had my card unless I showed them my passport. So I finally had it, had to wait in line. They did have my card, which was a miracle. Like, that was such a, oh my God, I needed that win. In that moment, I needed that win. I was so fucking happy that I got my card back. While I was paying for the medical services, the doctor told me that if the pain didn't get better within the next couple days, that we might want to consider flying to the nearest hospital, which was in San Jose. The only problem with that was that the drive over to the small airport that takes you to the big airport that would then take you to the hospital was almost an hour away on a bumpy ass road, and Steve could barely sit up. There was no relaxation during this trip. It was constant anxiety, and then a little bit of Netflix and chill. I mean, no chill, just Netflix. One cool thing out of that was we started watching Californication, which is a show that we both loved, and we still are watching it. It's a great show. I don't know why we didn't find it sooner. I was just thankful that he was alive at that point. You just, I guess, I just didn't realize, like, something like that happening, like, you just don't realize how anything could be taken away from you at any moment. And then, although I was like filled with emotions and basically crying every day because it was just hard, neither of us know really how to handle tough situations other than to joke about it. So we would just do bits and joke and do the best we could with it. Why'd you ruin our vacation?
You ruined my vacation.
I ruined your vacation?
Yeah.
What'd I do?
Should've let me die on Sunday and you
I also am a terrible vlogger. I just, when I'm feeling that many emotions, I don't think to take the camera out and document them, even though I want to, because that's real. That's what's really happening. That's a more accurate depiction of what's happening in life than to just be like, la 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 all the time. We ended up cutting our trip short out of fear that maybe we might have been misdiagnosed, because there was no way to take a test and there was no way to do an x-ray or anything like that. And it was so close to Christmas that if things were to get worse, say his kidney were to get infected or something like that, we might get stuck in Costa Rica. So we decided to cut it really short. That was a whole other mess of problems. We ended up having to cut our trip short, and today we're flying out, and even though I got travel protection, I still, oh, don't look at my butt. Even though I got travel protection, the only flight that left in the same airline and the same airport that we could have gotten home early in was an extra $2,000 in difference. So instead, I had to book a whole new set of flights to a different airport to leave back home to LAX. So it's been a fun ride. It's been like just a really fun time, and these are my memories of Costa Rica.
Freaking Snow White.
I know you showed me your affection.
So beautiful.
We had to take a tiny little plane to the bigger airport. Our plane just got here. Oh, by the way, this is the terminal. This is security. And that airport was a 45-minute taxi ride out of Santa Teresa, which was, like I said before, it's basically like you're off-roading. So Steve was in an immense amount of pain, which killed me. Like, there was nothing I could do. I felt so helpless. He actually started crying on the cab ride because he was in so much pain. And Steve does not cry. This man does not cry or show any sort of pussy emotions. He doesn't feel pain. This was a completely different man than I've ever seen, and I was so scared and I felt so helpless. I couldn't help. And like it was just really hard to watch. He's the strong one in the relationship. I'm not the strong one. That's not my role. I'm the emotional wreck one. Oh my god, man, hold on. Hashtag emotional.
I know you don't know what to expect, but I'm sure that if I just kept moving on and on and on to someone new, I would have never understood that I had you who gave it all.
We made it. Well, we made it on the first plane. We got one more plane to go. That was not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. It looked super scary.
Car ride was scary.
The car ride was scarier, yeah.
So good news was we got home safe.
Well, good morning. We made it home. And our boys missed us, which is nice.
Yeah.
Look at this one. What are you doing down there, huh? He's so cute. So this morning we have to take Steve to urgent care, but he doesn't want to sit in traffic.
No.
So we're not gonna leave for a little bit.
I'm not doing that.
Most diva kidney
it's
stone.
an hour and a half. Remember when I took you to urgent care?
Yeah.
It was an hour and a half.
An hour and a half. It was now.
Yes, it was.
It was like.
No, it legit was.
Nah.
It was legit an hour and a half. So because it's me that's in pain
Yeah.
and not you, I can choose to leave later.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that to you. I would just take you.
Okay, mister.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like fighting.
This is a brutal one.
This is a fight. We're fighting.
Right?
Look
at these kitties. They miss us, man.
He wants to take care of you.
Yeah, he's the best.
You got a good nurse going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Nurse, how are the vitals? Have you
like-
diagnosed the problem?
He's like, yep, he's warm.
Go to the urgent care. The doctor does a proper urine test. He confirms that it is in fact a kidney stone, and if Steve can't pass it in the next couple days, that he might need to go to the emergency room, because that's where they have CT scans and they're able to see if it's too large for him to pass and if he might need surgery. A few days go by, Steve does not pass the stone. We have to go to the emergency room.
Here we are in the emergency room. Merry Christmas, Nikki and Steve. Okay, update. So we're at CVS right now, getting pain meds for this guy. Not sponsored, but hello CVS, what's up, what's up, what's up? We got a CAT scan at the ER to see how big this kidney stone is and why he hasn't passed it yet. And they said that the largest it could be to still pass is 5 millimeters. That's like a pretty big one. Anything smaller than that, then he'll pass it naturally. But anything bigger, he might need surgery. His is 9.5 millimeters, like almost a centimeter.
Do you believe me now?
No. I really think this is just you trolling to ruin Christmas.
I'm sure I've seen comments, people saying I'm trolling.
Oh really?
Yeah, I'm like, what
no. This is not a troll.
Yeah.
He would not do this to me.
No.
Oh, he would not do this to
I
me.
wouldn't do this to myself.
Anyway, we're getting pain meds, and I really want to talk about. So this is putting a damper on my night.
Poor boo.
His kidney stone is 9.5 millimeters, almost double what a normal passable stone would be. So he definitely has to get surgery. So they say we need to see a urologist as soon as possible. Problem is, the next day is Sunday. Oh, our favorite day of the week. So nothing is open on Sunday. The next day, on Monday, is Christmas Eve. So even still, most of the urologists that were covered under our plan were gone till after Christmas. We actually did find a urologist that was covered though. He does another urine test and says you definitely need to get surgery, but fortunately he can do a non-invasive surgery, which is basically like they shock your kidney until it breaks up the stone into little pieces, and then they put a stent in your bladder tract. They put a stent in your kidney tract. We're like, okay, cool, that's better than the other kind of surgery where it's like super invasive. He goes to schedule an appointment, but then we find out that even though our insurance covers that doctor, it doesn't cover the hospital that the doctor works in. So he's not covered for the surgery. So then we gotta figure out where a urologist is that is in a hospital that is covered, and they're all on vacation until after the new year. So Steve's just basically chilling with a huge ass kidney stone for another week. Luckily, because of his pain tolerance, holy shit, I don't know how he does it. I was even tricked that he wasn't in pain the whole time. Like over Christmas, over New Year's, we had a good New Year. Like he's just really really good at covering pain. He's like a freaking cat. Cats cover their pain like that. But yeah, so he has to wait another week. Finally, it's the new year. We call a urologist that's under our plan, that works in a hospital that's under our plan. He can't see Steve till February. So Steve starts calling every urologist that we can get. We finally get an appointment scheduled for January 7th. That's like the closest that we could get. And we called insurance. Turns out that urologist is not covered either. Insurance fucking sucks. Our insurance plan, we found out, sucks. Really, really sucks. And it's expensive, and it sucks. The insurance lady is like, there's nothing we can do, sorry. And Steve begs her. He's like, I'm gonna lose my kidney. So she finally refers us to a doctor. We see him, we're able to get the appointment. He's like, holy shit, your stone is so big, and it moved out of the place where we could give you the shock procedure, and we have to do a full-blown surgery. They basically put a laser up through his dick and just disrupt everything that's going on there. They still put the stent in, and they still remove it that way. They pulled out this gigantic stone. All in all, I'd say, wow, it's been eventful. It's been an eventful month. I'm super grateful for a lot of things. I'm really grateful that we had insurance, because the past 2 years we didn't have insurance, and thank God it didn't happen then, because that procedure without insurance, even though we had to pay a pretty big deductible, without the insurance, it would have been like $20,000 to $30,000, which we definitely do not have. Holy God balls. I don't know what we would have done. Secondly, I'm really thankful that he didn't get the kidney stones that immobilized him the way that he was like projectile vomiting. I'm glad he didn't get that when he was separated from me that night where he had to go to the ATM. I'm glad it didn't happen when it was all dark and without his phone. I don't know what he would have done. I'm really thankful it didn't happen in the shuttle on the way to Santa Teresa, because there's no city in between that he would have been able to see. He would have had to drive like a couple hours with the excruciating pain. I'm really, really happy it didn't happen on that shuttle. I'm thankful that it was early enough in our trip that we hadn't spent that $1,000 on cool things. I mean, part of me wishes that we would have gotten to experience all the cool things before it happened, but then also we wouldn't have had the money to pay for the out-of-pocket stuff. I'm thankful for all the helpful people that were there that knew how to speak English when we didn't know how to speak Spanish. This really motivated me to learn Spanish this year. I should have done it before we went. I didn't think about it. I'm happy that we made it home for Christmas, and just like happy that he's alive. I know it sounds like cheesy. I'm just happy he's alive, but I am. Like, wow, man, like it's been a ride, a really emotional roller coaster ride. But yeah, there we are. That's the end of our story. I guess not the end of our story. He got the surgery.
I just picked Steve up from surgery. How you feeling, honey?
I feel like $1 million. $1 million.
$100 million.
Feels like I just got entered through my penis, which I did.
You got penetrated through your penis.
I did.
You got penetrated. He now is recovering from that. We get the stent pulled out in a few days. So yeah, be nice to Steve, man. If you go over to his Instagram, leave him a comment. He's got a really painful dick right now. It strengthened our relationship even more, if that was even a possibility. I had no idea it could be. But Steve says that he just feels the most close to me that he's ever felt, and I don't know, I'm just thankful that we were out the other end now. I didn't think this was gonna be #emotional to retell, but here we are. That's Nikki in real life, the real version, the storytime version, because I didn't take a lot of footage during those #emotional times. But thank you for watching. Subscribe so you don't miss any of this, and I'll keep you updated. And I will see you next time. Bye!